Hello everyone and welcome to Season 5, Episode 3 of Pro Wrestling's Top 50. I'm your host Travis McNeil, and today we continue our countdown of the top 50 matches in NXT history with match number 48 on our list, which is the NXT Women's Championship match between the champion Sasha Banks and the challenger Becky Lynch from the NXT TakeOver Unstoppale event held on May the 20th of 2015. This is a match that I personally will never forget. So I talked about it in the introduction video to this season, that I feel that, NXT's legacy overall might be the impact that it had on the WWE's women's division and, actually giving them an opportunity. And this match was at this point, in NXT or WWE history, I thought it was by far the best women's match that the WWE's ever produced. The story here is really, really good. So Becky Lynch, was kind of like this, mid-2000s, journeywoman wrestler, right? She was Rebecca Knox, did the Euro scene, was brought into Shimmer, really, really good, head and shoulders above a lot of the US, independent women that there were at that time, got a big push, kind of faded into obscurity. I don't really know the story there, to be honest. I don't know if she left the business or what happened, but she was gone for a while. She eventually came back in a managerial role, and then all of a sudden was signed to NXT. And it kind of seemed weird because, she had that peak back in the mid, like I said, the mid-2000s. She hadn't really wrestled much again since then. So a little bit of a bizarre pickup at the time. I was a huge fan of her in Shimmer. So, it was exciting on paper, but I wasn't really sure how it would come to fruition. So in NXT, we had Sasha Banks, who was on the come up. When I started to see her really develop, I thought that she just got it. I thought that there was potential for her to really be the big breakthrough, main event kind of women's star, that she would eventually overall become through her WWE career. But she showed those glimpses of it very, very early. So she ended up winning the women's title at a Fatal 4-Way at NXT TakeOver Rival. It was the four horsewomen 4-Way, where she ultimately defeated Charlotte for the title. Bayley and Becky Lynch were also in that match. Becky and Sasha had formed Team Bay, but there was always a clear hierarchy in that team as to who the leader was, being Sasha Banks. So we ended up getting, a triple threat match between the other three horsewomen to determine who would face Sasha for the belt at Unstoppable. Becky Lynch kind of won that in a little bit of a fluke, and that set up, Team Bay explodes for the women's title in this match. And, Sasha really threw her weight around at that point about how she was the leader and, how Becky was subservient to her. It led to a contract signing angle where Becky grabbed her in her armbar, the disarmer, if you will, and basically got the visual tap out over her. And it showed that, Sasha was playing all of these mind games, but it was because she was insecure and ultimately knows that Becky Lynch is the better wrestler that can make her tap out. So that brought us to this match. And it's really weird to kind of go back and watch it to see the evolution of Becky Lynch, because initially, you could tell that she really didn't quite know what she wanted to be, nor did the company really know what they wanted her to be. She's got, a bit of like a punk rocker gimmick here, and, eventually that would kind of be fleshed out into the steampunk gimmick, but, before all was said and done, they ended up just letting her be herself and be the man, and, that's what really catapulted her to stardom, first women's main event at WrestleMania, all that big stuff that she ultimately got to do. This match, though, it tells a really, really good story. And it's so simple at its core, and it ties in all of the mind games and everything coming into this match. So we start with a really nice, fish out of water sequence, which, at the time, I hate to say this, but, it was almost a little bit of a novelty, right? with the women, that they would do, all these great sequences, because, WWE had desensitized us to women's wrestling so much. So, it definitely seemed, like a new thing that we were getting to experience with that. So they do this really nice sequence to start. Becky, gets the opportunity, goes for this armor, and Sasha immediately gets out of there. At this point, this is where Sasha needs to start playing the head games, and she, backs Becky into the corner. She doesn't break clean. She slaps her. And this kind of fires Becky up, right? Because Becky has this bit of a chip on her shoulder of that she needs to prove herself to Sasha Banks in this match. Having been overshadowed, during the entire time of their team. But Becky makes a mistake where she comes in too aggressive, and it allows Sasha Banks to get an arm wringer on the ring apron. And this is really cool because when you look at this match on paper and what they established, super early on in the match, you think the story here is going to be Becky going for Sasha's arm, and that would play into everything. But they completely, take you one way and then turn you in and take you down another way with this, because it's actually Sasha who works Becky's arm ferociously throughout this match. And it makes sense too, right? If you attack somebody's arm, they can't use that arm to pull back on yours, right? So it really is quite smart. The arm work here is so good. Sasha Banks effectively utilizes a Japanese stranglehold, but she's so great with it because she pulls her back into a lung blower with it, and she's kind of slamming her into the mat by the arms. It's really vicious. It's really good. Sasha does her double knees in the corner where her opponent's draped across the middle ropes, but she does that with targeting Becky's arm, so she comes down with her knees on the arm, which was great. She puts her in a short arm scissors, and she's so good at just trash talking her the whole time, and she's doing Becky Lynch's kind of punk rock taunts and whipping her hair around and all of this stuff that Becky would do at the time. And it's really good. And Sasha was perfect, especially in this era, because she was so cool, but she still did a really good job at making her unlikable, right? So, she was still a heel. You still wanted to see the face beat her, despite the fact that she, had this cool persona to her. Becky mounts an awesome comeback in this match, where she just starts throwing out all of these big suplexes. So she deadlifts Sasha out of the short arm scissors. She hits a big, Joshi-style front drop kick from the top rope. And she's hitting all of these arm track suplexes, with a hammer lock and, grabbing her arm and doing all of these different things. Sasha, gets in these cool spots too. She gets her, lucha arm drag that she does, which again, targeting the arm. She goes for La Mystica, but Becky kind of throws her off and throws her over the ropes and then rams her shoulder into the post. So we kind of get this tit for tat where now it's both of these women have weakened arms. Who's going to be able to capitalize first? Becky goes for disarmer again, and Sasha kicks her off to the floor. And at this point, Sasha, doesn't really know what to do. She knows her arm is falling apart. She knows she tapped to the disarmer, with the contract signing without any work being done on her arm. And her days are numbered, and she decides that she has to go big. It's the only shot that she has to win this match and retain her title. And she goes for a tope to the floor. The spot's supposed to be that Becky catches her. It doesn't turn out perfectly, but it all kind of makes sense too. Becky's got this bad arm, it makes sense that she couldn't catch her all the way, but she does Hulk her back up and slam her into the steps. And then we get this finish to this match that, when I mentioned this about the Neville and Tyson Kidd match the other day, where it almost feels kind of tacked on, it was okay, let's go to the finish now, but it works weirdly in the grand scheme of the match. So, Becky gets a slam into the steps, throws Sasha back into the ring, and, makes this mistake where really she should have went back in and slapped the armbar on her and got the tap. But she goes up to the top rope. Now, is she going up there to maybe try to hit that Joshi drop kick again? Because that was the big momentum swing earlier in the match. I don't know. Is she going up for, her Alabama Jam leg drop she does? I don't know. But the fact of the matter is she goes to the top, which is, out of the comfort zone, out of her game plan in this match. And maybe again is that psyche of, Sasha tried this dive. I need to prove I'm better than Sasha. I need to do a high risk maneuver. But while she's climbing up top and wasting that time, it allows Sasha just to run up there and go for broke like I talked about and basically hit one move. She hits a front lung blower off the top rope to the arm of Becky Lynch. If she missed that move, it would have been lights out. She would have lost her title. She would have crashed to the mat. It would have allowed Becky to hit whatever she was going for and either get a pin or slap on the armbar. But, it was this calculated risk by Sasha that paid off. She hit the move perfectly. It allowed her to transition it into the bank statement, and it was enough to make Becky Lynch tap. What makes this match so memorable to me, though, is the post-match. It's basically the women's wrestling version of, Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle at the 2003 Royal Rumble, where Becky Lynch, puts on the performance of a lifetime and earns the respect of the crowd, and they end up giving her a standing ovation in a really memorable moment. They kind of do the, oh, a cappella, to her theme song. It was really cool. It was a really great moment. It made her really emotional. This match was a fantastic feather in the cap for Sasha Banks, who, you know, was at this point, you know, setting the world on fire with her women's title defenses that, like I said, would leave such a lasting impact on the WWE altogether. This was the first glimpse that we really had that Becky Lynch could be a major player. This match is excellent. You can watch it, of course, if you have Peacock. If you're international, it is available on the WWE Network, as all NXT stuff is. You can subscribe to my channel here on YouTube so that you never miss a video. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Wrestling50. And please join me again tomorrow as we continue to count down Pro Wrestling's Top 50.